everybody to another Permadirt gaming video. We got some Permadirt and Friends review today. We're going over episode 5 of The Last of Us. And along with me again today, we have ourselves the PvPvE champion of his apartment. And I'm going to keep sticking with it until it becomes a thing. At Poka_TTV. How you doing?
Pretty good.
It's going to become a thing.
You think there's
It's
somebody
gonna
in my
become a-
apartment that's better than me?
We'll never know now, will we?
We won't.
We'll never know.
We never will.
Speaking of championship ostrich wrangling, must be a sport somewhere. I'm not sure, but we'll find it. We'll find it. On the other end, we have Twitch, our Ostrichwrangler 1. How's it going over there?
Hi, everybody. Happy to be here. I'm
Happy to be here. Another
excited
week.
to review this one. This was an episode.
This is a beauty. Another butte. Another butane butte, as they say. Yeah, so this is the third one we've done, even though it's episode 5. So I mean, we're getting to be veterans here, guys. We're getting veteran status now. And I mean, I'm excited to see what our takes are on this one, because like Ostrich has alluded to, it had a different vibe, I think, than the last episode. So it'll be interesting to see what your takes are on this. If anyone's showing up here late and you're interested on some previous ones, there will be a video up on Permadirt Gaming YouTube, and you can check these other boys out on Twitch as well. We got content everywhere. But without further ado, I mean, let's just get right into it. It's a longer episode, so let's not mess around. Last of Us, I have 5 here. Episode 5. 58 minutes, so a little bit longer than last week. We got a little bit more. Same guy, Jeremy Webb, directed it, which I know I actually was looking up just before this with you guys, but I knew that. I don't know why I did that, because I remember he did 2 back to back, and then they like snipped it down the middle like it was supposed to be a big movie. I remember it was a whole thing they talked about. Anyway, let's get going. So they open up on the overthrow of the city. So we're going a little bit back in time, kind of similar to what they've done with other episodes. We're starting a little bit in the past, and they're showing the overthrow of the rebels from Fedra. It's pretty damn grim. I mean, they got people going through the streets, like 1,000 knives stuck in them. They're hanging people. They're just straight up massacring. I mean, we can get all into that stuff later, but it's not pretty. It's a wild scene to start off on. And then we eventually see Sam and Henry. They're hiding out in the street behind a dumpster. This is where we get that reiteration that Sam is deaf. We knew that at the end of last episode, because he kind of had a little bit, I think, like ASL or something going on there at the end of the last episode. But this kind of, just reaffirms it. And then we get Kathleen talking to a group of informers. We go into this room. They're sitting there, in this room, bunch of informers, a bunch of rats, essentially, which is like the worst thing you can be in this environment is just a bunch of rats. And she treats them as such. Basically, same thing. She says she is looking for Henry and Sam. And we don't know the story or anything about this yet. We just know that I believe in the last episode they had said something about this person being killed. And was it like her? Did they say it was her brother yet?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yes,
Not at this point. I don't think. Did they?
Not this point.
I thought it was
Last episode. It was something like she was looking for some person. I don't know if it was her brother yet. Maybe they mentioned it. I can't remember. Anyways, she alludes to it, saying like, you guys are all rats. That's why I have you here. So time to start ratting. And she says, well, if you want to save yourself, kind of tell me what's going on. One of them does sort of say like, oh, they have a place. Henry and Sam have a place here. And in case that they can, something goes wrong, they can go there. He didn't know where it was. But anyway, so Kathleen leaves and says, no, just kill them all. There's no trials here. We're here to off people. Just kind of reiterating the hatred that we've stumbled across here in Kansas City, which is pretty real, pretty angry lady, this one. Then we see at that point, Henry and Sam go up into an attic. So we're back on Henry and Sam, and the doctor dude is there. I can't remember his name. I think he has a name, but there's the doctor dude. I think that got shot in the beginning of the last episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Henry's talking about how they're kind of secretly talking without Sam sort of seeing or hearing there, that they have like 11 days max. He's crunching the numbers. Like, he knows what he's doing. We got 11 days left. We need to find a way out and all these different things. They didn't have many bullets. They're kind of just taking stock. And this is kind of where you see Henry's trying to be the mature one there, because obviously Sam's super young, and he's just like saying, the super Sam sort of, we got lots of time to kill here. Let your kind of imagination roll,
Mm-hmm.
and they start coloring on the wall and stuff. You can tell that they're obviously very close relationship. And then we go, so we were still in the past there, and then we go 10 days later. All right, 10 days later, and we see him kind of open up the corner of his apartment, or the attic, I guess, and look out, and you just see people everywhere. Like I mean, I knew there was people in this rebellion, but to me, this felt like it gave it a little bit of a scope. Like there was a lot more people than I anticipated. Is that kind of, and we're kind of on that sort of thing, because he looked at the window and there was like trucks and just little ants crawling everywhere. And I was like, oh, so this is like a bigger thing than we anticipated. That's what I kind of thought.
Yeah, it
out of that.
was a lot. Yeah, I just wanted to say, I didn't want to interrupt you before, but I
Yeah.
want to say one thing on that Kathleen scene. sh- I I still can't figure out what it is with her. I'm not sure if it's her choice to do the character, but I just kept finding I'm just not believing in what she was saying. I just didn't.
Yeah.
She just yeah, just the way she delivers her lines. She's like this weird, nice but very evil person, and she's just not.
hmm
I don't think she hits either one of those things well in the show.
Yeah. Very, very soft. I mean, we can dive into that more too later, but I'm kind of on your vibe there too.
Yeah.
Okay, so 10 days later, there's people everywhere. They're hungry, and at this point, Sam starts asking, like, is he coming back? Is he coming back? And at this point, you realize that the doctor, I forgot his name, isn't there
Mhm.
anymore, and that he was obviously sent out to go get something, whether food or supplies or whatever it is, and he's not back yet. Henry doesn't want to say no, he's not coming back yet. But Sam seems pretty concerned about this whole thing. We then cycle to the next day. Now they're officially out of food, because the previous day they had mentioned there's only one can of food left. Now they're officially out of food, and this is where Henry kind of like having a real moment with Sam, and tells Sam that, yeah, he's not coming back. He just started off, he says, yep, he's done. He's not coming back. There's no way. Um, and you can kind of see like Henry, while he's also being like the big brother in the situation, he's also being kind of real. And you see sort of Sam again being the young kid, being like, no, like broken down over this, like that was his friend or someone that he actually cared about and knew, and he isn't coming back. So kind of an interesting, another little take there, a little bit more emotion again. So then they decide, well, it's 11th day, there's no food here, we got to get out of here. They're swarming around, and he just starts to, he says, we're gonna paint the superhero faces on, we're gonna be cool, we're gonna be brave, right? He's just trying to get the motivation for his little brother, who's obviously scared in this scenario. So then it shows them, they leave, they go down, and then they end up getting caught near a firefight, which we know is Joel and Ellie's fight. So now
Mhm.
our timelines are kind of coming back together. It's just a different view, him peeking over, he sees Joel and Ellie, and they're fighting.
I like that.
Yeah,
I
and I
this scene
like
a
how
lot
they
because it caught up on it real quick. Like, I was
yes,
wondering, I
we're
was
not
like, "Okay,
far in
how
here.
much are we gonna see of Sam and Henry's background?" Because it's like, you kinda know, well, you know what's coming up for some of us. So it's like you don't wanna get too much backstory. You just wanna keep progressing with the story. So I thought they got into it
Yeah.
quickly, which is good.
Well, like you said, we alluded to, there's a lot left.
Yeah.
So I like to spend a ton of time, and before seems weird. So I'm
Mm.
glad they didn't spend too much time.
Yep.
Sorry, Poker, were you saying something?
No, good.
You're good. Okay. And then so they sneak up, and this is the part where they kind of like really cruise through, which I did like, the fact that from the moment they see him fight, they don't mess around. It's like suddenly, boom, it's nighttime, and you can tell they're in the same building, going up the same stairs that Ellie and Joel were in. They right away hit the glass, right? The glass that Joel put on the ground. It crunches. Obviously, Sam can't hear it. So, Henry tells him like it's loud. So you know right away that they're in the apartment already. So we've just fast forwarded a ton,
Mhm.
which is great. And so then they do the whole thing. They do the stick up. And right away you can kind of tell like they bond, just like in the game. They kind of bond over the fact that they both have young kids there, and they both have this. So they kind of trust each other a little bit, even though the guns are on them. They kind of trust each other. They have the meal because obviously they need food. They share the food. Um, and at that point, Joel still kind of wants to get away, but I mean, you can tell Ellie already is like, and hey, another kid.
Yeah.
Like this is, you can tell like she immediately, they have that just sort of kid sort of bond. They
Yeah.
right away want to start like playing together and doing all this stuff. And
She wants to actually talk and hang out with someone rather than just a grumpy old guy.
just a grumpy Gus. Exactly. She's like, oh, look, someone who's like actually fun, not, telling me no all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
So then we fast forward to the next sort of morning. They're in this like big boardroom. They're looking out the windows and they're just making chit chat between Joel and Henry here. And then you see Sam off on the side, and same thing with Ellie. Funny thing is, in this scenario too, you see Ellie again with the pun book. They're all laughing and they're just reading through puns. It's kind of funny. It's like, oh, the pun book is still working. Also, little known fact, I don't know if you guys knew, and I only knew this because I played through the DLC. The pun book makes an appearance in the DLC.
Oh.
They find it, and you can literally sit there, and I don't know how many puns are in the game. I did probably like 15 of them, and then I just stopped because I was tired of hearing them. It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool, but that's where it's from. I'm like, oh dang, like it was in the DLC the whole time. So they're sitting in this big boardroom, and Henry kind of says like, well, no, I'm not really with Fedra, and I'm not really with anyone. I'm a collaborator. Basically means he's just a rat. He's one of the rats that they were often there. He sells information. He kind of rats on different people. And he also says he's never really killed anyone, which kind of, again, is part of the whole thing. Like, he's an information guy. He doesn't do the wet work. And then you see, once again, like I said before, Sam and Ellie become friends. The book is out. They're giggling with each other. They're laughing. And at this point, this is where you find out that Henry says, hey, we have we are basically boxed in by by interstates, giant roads that are set up with, that are set up with roadblocks. So we can't really do it above land because they're all going to be all over there. They're going to see us. We're never going to make it through. We got to use the tunnels. He says there's maintenance tunnels under the city. And he says, and this is where you're also getting a ton of information here all at once, which I think was needed, which is kind of good. He says, like, basically the only good thing Fedra ever did when they were here was push all these infected down into the tunnels.
Right.
Which again is a callback to last episode when you saw the floor basically moving like water because these things are down there. So there's a lot down there. But he also says while they're all down there, he had an informant basically tell him that they were all gone.
Right. Yeah.
Which, in the same breath, felt a bit weird to me. Like, they pushed them all down there, but they're gone now. I'm like, oh, okay. Like,
I know.
Where'd they go?
Yeah, where'd they put them then? Like, where they don't just disappear.
Yeah, they don't just like age out. I mean, you see the odd one in the world that just becomes part of the landscape, but other than that, you don't. They don't age out like that.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of a bit weird. And you could see Joel was pretty turned off by it as well.
I feel like there could have been some other dialogue in that scene that would have helped it a little bit. Like, either saying like they pushed them to a certain, like, a different area of the tunnel that we wouldn't be going through, or something like that. Like, just one more thing to make it be like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, like maybe like we needed to use the tunnel, so we kind of pushed them into a. But then again, I also don't understand how you even get them underground. Like that was a question I had too. I went like, these things are always in attack mode. Like, so how do you trick them to all? Like, do you put someone down there and just funnel them all in somehow and close? Like, I don't know. To me, that's a $1 million question as well. How do you get these things all in down there? I don't know. Okay. Anyway, so we are now going down to the tunnels. They find we're down the tunnels, and right away you can tell we get down there. Like, Henry, he's just he hasn't been outside the city. He hasn't been like sort of that survivor type mentality, because he immediately starts talking. Like, they get in the tunnels, he immediately starts talking. And Joel's kind of like, hey, dude, like, shut up. We don't know this place. Like, there could be someone sitting here. You need to be quiet. So yeah, absolutely. That happens. And then they keep walking. They're going slow. And then they come across a school. And for those of you who played the game, this is the Ish school. His name is Ish. It's a pretty big part of the game. You actually spend quite a bit of time here. But in this, it's just one room. Basically, looks like one or two rooms, or at least that's what they alluded to. And I mean, like I said, there's a huge
that, right? Like,
yeah. Well, they had to cut corners somewhere. Because it's a huge area we're going through here, and I'm fine with that. Just getting its nod, being a good place for them to rest, and then moving on.
Totally, and it's a believable thing, right? Like, the people who still want to live and like they value education, or just want to like do something with their little kids. So they set up this whole playroom for them in this very apocalyptic kind of world. So I thought it
Yeah.
looked cool. I liked the soccer because it was pretty much exactly the same from the game.
Yep.
So that was cool.
Yeah, it was a really good call out there. Like I liked everything they did there. It was good. Like I said, it wasn't as big, didn't need to be. It was there, makes everyone happy,
Mhm.
and then we can move on with that. There's also some dialogue that happens here. The kids finally get to be kids again. Joel's apprehensive about this whole thing again. He doesn't want to stop. He says we should keep going. Like be quiet. Let's keep moving through here. But then they kind of like no. Like this is a safe area. The doors seem pretty thick. You can probably lock yourself in here and be fine and just chill out for a bit. So during when they're here, and Ellie and Sam are playing, they're playing soccer and kind of reading comic books and saying all this stuff. Joel and Henry have a conversation. They kind of start bonding again. Once again, they have similarities. I feel like they're bonding quicker than most times with Joel, who's normally stick in the mud.
Mhm.
So Henry kind of comes out and says like, I have killed a man. So you could tell like he's not a great liar either. He's just not he's not a Joel. You know what I mean? He's
Yeah.
an informant. He's a rat. He is not as strong about his convict. Like you know what I mean? He's just kind of one of those characters. He says there was a great man, the guy I killed. He was never selfish, always forgiving. And he really was like he said he really would have followed him. Like he was a leader. And he said, but what happened is Sam got sick. He had leukemia and he needed some medicine. And the only people who had it was Fedra. So essentially he went to Fedra, talked to them, and they said, the only way you're getting this medicine is if you bring us something big. And they wanted the leader of the resistance, which was this man. And he said that the payment was great, I think is how we put it.
Mhm.
And then what we learn after that is that the leader of the resistance was Kathleen's brother.
Right.
So we kind of come full circle here that this, Kathleen's brother, she's probably in power because her brother was really the great leader. She's not really the great leader. She's in charge of because of trickle down. You know what I mean? Like it's like, oh, next one in line, next family member in line, I guess is how they were doing it.
Yeah.
And I mean it shows again, because no one's saying about how good she was other than later on Perry. It's Perry,
Yeah,
right?
makes a
Perry says that.
reference. Yeah, he says something.
Yeah. But I don't know. What do you guys think about this whole sort of dump here?
Uh, I like the dumping. He wasn't in the school with them in the game, right? Like, did they have that?
Henry?
Like, what they wouldn't have had any sort of conversation like that, right?
They didn't have any conversation like that because these characters didn't like the
I know Kathleen wasn't
Kathleen
there,
didn't
but
exist.
I couldn't remember if there was some other like major emotional thing that he said in the school to Joel.
No, they end up getting separated in the game. So they actually play a switcheroo. You get Sam and Ellie get stuck with Henry and you end up meeting
Okay.
back and having a big fight type thing. But
yeah, I like this scene. I leaned over to Miss Wrangler as we were watching this, and I just said like, Joel must be the most frustrating person to talk to because Henry just like dumped his heart out. He says like, I'm a bad guy who did bad things, and obviously he's
yeah.
looking for some sort of like either an it's okay or yeah, you're a dick. And Joel just sits there silently, just like he's talking to a wall this entire time, and
Yeah.
just gives him nothing. I was like, man, that would be frustrating. But I really like him talking about the medicine for Sam scene,
Yeah.
because it just I don't want to spoil anything. It gives a good idea of what the mindset was like for those people trying to survive.
Yep.
Because it comes in again and again and again.
Yep. And again and again. Yeah. No, absolutely. It was I definitely think that it was a like you said, it was one sided. Once again, you can definitely see the mindset difference between someone like Joel who is like a killer and did things to survive, which is basically the only thing they have in common with Henry is that he survived a different way off information. Joel survived by just killing and being tougher than everyone else around him, essentially, right? Like it's a different mentality. He's kind of like, yeah, we've all done really terrible things. I've killed so many people. I felt like he also kind of was like, this is we're complaining over one body here.
Yeah, he's like, this is, and he's like, and you didn't even really kill him. You just rat him out.
Yeah, you ratted him out. You did what you had to do. So they get out the other side. I can't remember why they ended up leaving. Some like noise they made. I didn't write this in there. It was some sort of like big noise or something, or maybe Joel's getting uncomfortable. But they decide that they're going to leave.
Yep.
So they leave. And then, like I said, this part is a long part in the game, very short here. The tunnel's very quick. They're suddenly out the other side, and immediately they're in this town, and they start making noise again. And I'm just kind of like, and right away Joel's like, no, like shut up. We're not out of the blue here, kind of.
Mhm.
And same thing. Henry's like, no, like man, we're beyond it. We're good. We're in the town, just like I said we were. And he's like, pumping his chest, feeling all confident, and sure enough, like 2 minutes later, suddenly you hear this bullet,
Yeah, I will
and you
say
have the sniper scene.
you
Yep.
missed the one Kathleen scene though before this one.
Oh, there was? Which one?
There was Kathleen in her childhood room and she was talking with Perry.
Oh, yes. I actually have that here. Sorry, my
Yeah,
bad.
I got you.
Yeah, well, okay, just before the scene,
Mhm.
Perry and Kathleen have a scene in their childhood room. Her brother, they kind of have this interesting talk, because this is, now that we know the brother and the connection and everything, they kind of have the scene putting it all together. Where like I said, she's in her childhood room, which obviously then again tells her she's never left the city. This is she's born and grew up here and all this stuff. That they're in a child room. She's also, Perry comes in there and she's like, how'd you find me? And he's like, well, I talked to your mother and your mother said this is where you'd be, which once again, her mother's still alive. I don't know if we knew that. So it seems to be like a lot of them survived the beginning of this
Right.
whole thing, which seems to be pretty rare. Her brother, you get a pretty good part there again, where you can tell her brother was probably a much better leader, because her brother even told her when he was in jail and she went to go visit him, like, you need to forgive and move on.
Mhm.
You need to stop like this betrayal thing. You need to move on. And coming from obviously the person who put him in there, I don't know. Once again, it's just shows her brother was the bigger person in this whole
Yeah.
situation. And Kathleen just says she refused to. And then at that point, Perry cuts in there and says, but he also wasn't the one who did any change. He said, you did, right? So I guess she kicked off the revolution, the takeover of Fedra. And I guess that's why he kind of respects her,
Yeah, that's kind of
Yeah.
what I got
I
too.
guess.
I would
I don't
assume
know.
that her brother tried to do it in a more diplomatic way, and then she just came in and emotions first and went for it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
Like,
was
it
more
still wasn't
angry and wanted
it still
to.
wasn't a great. I didn't really care much for the scene. Like, I don't know. I'm trying just not to hate on her because I don't. That's not fair. But yeah, I didn't find that it did much of anything. Like, I wish that she would just say, yeah, you know what? He said that I should forgive and forget, and I'm gonna try, rather than this crazy vendetta where you're leading an entire army after one guy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it seems a bit wild. It does seem a bit wild to me. That's kind of where they're at, right? They have limited resources and they're just focused on tracking down like her vendetta. It's just,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, it seems like you also, when you're leading a group of rebels, I mean, depending on how well organized you are, but like the problem is that rebels are like in rebellion and stuff. If you're not moving forward,
they're going to rebel.
they're going to rebel. They've already done it once, right?
Yep.
Like it's never,
Mhm.
it's not like, oh, this is, always a sane group of people.
Yeah, and I just don't
And
think
based
she
off of
has
what I've seen them
yeah,
do,
yeah.
like, yeah, I
I
don't
don't
know.
think
It
she has
seems,
enough of the charisma to actually lead them all to doing
yeah,
that, and I just don't get. It's not believable to me that you have 150, whatever, 200 people all following, being like, yeah, let's rally around this person and hunt this one kid down who ratted on our leader.
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
it just seems like a lot of resources, but
Oh well, that's what they're up to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Perry, you can tell like Perry respects her. I don't know if it's like a love thing or what the deal is, because he always seems like weirdly close to her, but not really. I don't know.
yeah,
And then this is where that scene I just said, they got outside the gate. We have Henry and them making noise. And then the sniper happens.
let's
So
get into it.
also part of a game. This is where it starts popping off in the game. This is completely shot for shot again.
Yeah,
The only difference is this is at night. In the game,
Yeah.
it's during the day or in the evening or something.
and man, does
um,
the night make it better.
The night makes it so much better. It's such an interesting shot scene, this whole thing that's coming up, just because of the colors and everything, right? Like, so good.
It was way
So,
for me, it was way better than the game, but we can compare it afterwards.
Well, yeah, exactly. We'll talk more. We'll go in depth about it after, but yeah, absolutely. I think I'm with you there too. So, the fight ensues. So Sniper pins him down. Joel comes up. He's like, okay, well, this guy really has a terrible shot. He says right away, I'm going to flank him. And so he does flank him really, again, this part really quick in the game. It's like 10-15 minute part. Just right away flanks him, gets into the building, realizes the dude can't hear him even though he's in the building, and saw him flanking because he's still shooting up top. Gets up there, tells him to put his gun down. He actually tries to be kind of nice about it. He's like, dude, don't do it. Like, just put the gun
I
down.
love this.
And you can see he's like, I don't want to shoot you. I don't, because he sees the dude, like, he's pretty old.
Yeah.
I don't know if that played a factor in it at all, but he's like, don't do it. But you can see the old man. He's like, nope. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try.
Like,
and
please
sure enough,
don't
he
do it.
tries.
He's like, I really am tired of killing people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he does. He tries to kill him, and then obviously Joel just puts him down because why wouldn't he? And then at that point you see him. He kind of lifts a jacket. There's a radio underneath, and you can hear Kathleen on the other end say, "Keep or hold or pin him down there. We're on our way." And he's like, "Oh crap! This wasn't a one-off. This is part of the rebels." So at this point, he starts the main fight ensues. The main part of the fight ensues. You can kind of hear it goes back to Henry, Sam, and Ellie, who are still hiding behind the vehicle, and you kind of hear like in the faint, like run, like run. And then it kind of zooms forward again on Joel, who's like screaming like run, and then they look behind him and they see it happening. So they start running and they're panicking. It's kind of an action scene. And eventually the front vehicle, who's smashing all of the other stuff out of the way so the convoy can come through. Joel hits a snipe of a lifetime, clips it, puts it on YouTube.
Yeah.
No, he headshots the driver. The driver goes veering off into a building and catches on fire. It blows up, gives him a little bit of cover so they can get behind a different vehicle. And all you see in the background is just tons of vehicles and just tons of these mercenary dudes.
Yeah, there's
the rebels coming forward, and you're like, oh, this is different than the game. Like in the game, you kill lots of rebels, but they kind of come nicely, so it's like trickling. This is like a wave, and you're like, oh no, like what's happening? So, eventually, Kathleen's kind of talking, saying like, Henry, come out, like let's just make this happen. So eventually Henry stands up because he realizes they're getting really close, and he's got 2 kids there. So he says he will come out if you let the kids live. And then I have here, she is an ass who says no.
Yeah.
No.
You know, like I felt like no, because she basically alluded. She says, "Well, it's their time to die."
Yeah.
Like
I'm
just
like,
like,
basically was what she said.
yeah, kids die every day, and I'm like, wow, like it. Oh, she's just a terrible human being. Like she's just in her, like, I don't know. What do you guys think of that? For me, that was like, you got to be dead inside.
I don't think that lines up very much with the person who struggled to shoot the doctor in the last episode. You know, where she, like, the first time she didn't end up shooting him in the cell, and then she left, and the guy was. Then she went back and shot him. It doesn't seem from that to this was just like. So, do you have a problem killing people, or do you not have a problem killing people?
Yeah.
I don't think after one kill you're like, oh, gung ho, just start shooting all the children. You don't go full Anakin off.
Well, and it's funny too. She rationalized. I can't remember why. Do you remember what she said when she said, "No, I'm going to kill Sam too," for some reason or something? It was because Sam was for like her, because he was part of the deal with her brother.
Yeah, something.
Was like she mentioned specifically. No, well, he was a part of the deal, so I'm like, and then she says also, well, the other girl's going to die too because she's with the other guy who killed him.
Ryan.
Which is hilarious because, again, not their fault. They were driving and ambushed by them.
Yeah.
So, right, you can just see like she's just a blind rage mode.
Yeah. And I just don't think it's delivered well. Like I just don't believe it's just that her anger doesn't make enough sense. It's just it's too much. But
this whole like suddenly you're a child murderer, like just murdering children in this post-apocalyptic world where it's like arguably like you need some children around. We're all gonna die out here. Like,
exactly.
Anyway, so they kind of have this whole thing, and she says it's just their time to die. And then at this point, she cocks the gun back. She's about to shoot Henry, and then off on the side, the vehicle who had crashed into the house and caught on fire. Suddenly, this thing starts sinking, like it's sinking sand under there. It's just like you're like, uh-oh, and it's just falling. It's just disappearing beneath the earth. And I have here the largest amount of infected come just sprinting out of this hole.
It was crazy.
incredible. Like, it was
Yeah.
probably one of the
This
coolest shots in a
Yeah.
zombie movie that I've seen. Like, it's the first girl. So she stumbles out and falls on the ground, one of the
Mm.
zombies, and the rest of them just are like trampling over her. Like, it's just the coolest chaos I've seen. It was wild.
This kind of reminds me of like the Daisy sort of zombies, the ones that are just like freakishly athletic. Even though we
Yeah.
knew like clickers were like once they have you kind of in their sights, they're psychos. Like they just fly at you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But it was crazy to see all these things just pinned up and they were just out of there. And they were just flying out of that hole.
It was
It
so
was
cool.
wild.
Crazy.
Yeah. And then eventually, so a bunch were coming out and you just see all of them that just immediately start like shooting these things, all the rebels. And they're getting knocked off. There's just so many of it's like a flood of these things coming out of the hole. And then eventually we see the bloater also makes an appearance here. Which is once again very, very, very cool. But suddenly you hear some thumps, this big thing comes out. And once they kind of show the bloater starting to come up, then they kind of go back to Henry and Sam. We're kind of get a bunch of jump cuts going around here a little bit.
It is
Henry and Sam,
sick.
they eventually run, which to me, I was sitting there the second those guys turn their guns off them. I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah. You
literally in my
just
head,
bolt.
I'm like, haul out of there,
Yeah.
people. What are
Yeah.
we hiding here for? Like, let's get down this street. They're going to fight the closest ones first. So you're going to have a few seconds to get out of here. Like, why are we sitting here?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I kind of was a little bit frustrated with that moment, but I get it. It built tension. But I also was like, come on, guys, you're smarter than this.
There was a neat scene in there too, as Joel has got a lifetime supply of sniper ammo up there.
Yeah.
Never had to
Yeah.
reload. Maybe once.
I was going to say the next thing was there was no clip on there or anything. Like there's no clip on that gun. So he's just like,
Just
I don't know.
loading. I don't
Maybe
know
he's
what
just
doing.
really good at bolt action life. I don't know.
But it's the scene where Ellie starts running away and she sees like the back of the vehicle she wants to jump in, and they're like, it's her and Joel like talking with their eyes to each other. She sees it, and then it shows him looking towards it, and then he knows what she's
Yeah.
gonna do, and he's just shooting monsters as she runs by and stuff. It was a neat little scene of him watching over her. But Lord, is he shooting zombies that were right beside her.
He didn't
He
miss.
trusted
Oh, I
his
know.
aim.
Some of them were wildly close. I was like, oh my gosh, like you're shooting over her shoulder and hitting his like I'm like,
Yeah.
it's really cool, but it's like this
Yeah.
seems a bit different.
Don't look at me in the
Yeah.
That's
It is a bit dicey.
Yeah, I would have heard not as many of those, because I feel like in real life, like, he just wouldn't have done that, because
No, yeah, you don't
he's
take
pretty
that
far
shot. I
away.
don't
But
think.
yeah,
Yeah. But who knows? I mean, I guess in the reality of she'll die or I maybe
Totally.
save her, like it doesn't really. Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
you kind of have to take that shot. So we all see them running. They do this sort of that they all get split up. And then Ellie, like you alluded to, goes into a vehicle. She sees a vehicle. There's a they make their way over there. Now we cut back to Perry and Kathleen, who start shooting at the bloater now. And he put 2 clips into him, and this thing it's bouncing off him like ping pong balls. Like this thing, whatever it is, it has an armor around it that is not happening. And I'm kind of glad they the bloater aspect of it. They didn't have like. He wasn't throwing pus balls at everyone like they do in the game. It was just like, no, it's a big dude who's got like the fungus has armored him, and it made it. I don't know. It made it less cartoony, I guess, in my mind.
Yeah, and it wasn't a prominent part, right? Like he had one scene, but you don't see him just massacring everybody. He's just kind of one scene and done kind of thing.
Yeah. So we see the blow. Oh, sorry. Then you see them. They fight. He puts 2 clips into him. He tells Kathleen just to run, and literally you see Kathleen run, and 2 seconds later, this bloater just rips Perry's head off.
Yep, it's gone.
It was hilarious. I loved it. I was just like, yes. I don't know
he's
why.
like, I'm gonna take this thing down, and then just gets his head ripped off. It was hilarious.
In my head, I thought he was gonna use like a launcher, like a grenade or something eventually, and he didn't. He just kept trying to shoot him. I'm like, oh, this ain't working. Like you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just stood there and just got his head ripped off. It was kind of, yeah. And so you just kind of see Kathleen's running and the camera's following over her shoulders type thing. And it's kind of neat. Now we're back in the vehicle. So now we're jumping back to the vehicle again. This is the vehicle Ellie's in. And the creepiest child clicker thing comes ripping in there. And whatever little girl played this clicker did an amazing job of like showing how like it was freaking out, but you could tell like because the head had grown, it was heavier than the rest of like a normal head body. Like, cause like when she jumped over everything, her head kept
Head
slamming
first.
first.
It was
Yeah, and she
so
was
cool. I
yeah, she was
love
just
that.
completely out of control. She went over the back seat and she could tell he crawled, but the head was so heavy it just kind of like plopped out of the like down. It was
Yeah.
so cool. Like I never even thought of that until I'm like, oh dang, like the head's so much bigger.
Mm-hmm.
It's off balance.
I don't know how they
Like
choose to
and
make that choice in the game. Like the thought of that, like she's slinkying over
Yeah.
yeah.
the seats, and it's
And
very
it's at the rate her
jarring.
arms and legs are moving, like they're just clawing forward. It's just her head, and it's
Yeah.
just like it kind of gives you that sick sort of like almost like in like a tarantula or something.
It
Like
was
just sort
wild.
of like there's always legs flying at you. It
It's
looked very
very
cool.
cool. Yeah.
I want to give props to whoever that was, whoever played that character, because that was
Phenomenal.
great. If that was actually like a little like little person, it wasn't some sort of like CGI whatever it was. I don't think it was. I think it was practical. That was really cool.
I think so.
Let's see. We're in the vehicle. Creepy child. That's right. And so then basically that means that flushes Ellie out of the vehicle. She lands on the ground. She looks over and she sees Sam and Henry fighting for their life under another vehicle. They're kind of kicking away. At this point, this is I think actually where what you were alluding to before here. Ostrich was she kind of looked over at the house where Joel was because she's
Yes,
like, I'm
yeah.
not going to run away. I'm going over here. She looks over and then makes a bolt
Yeah.
towards it, and she pulls out her knife and then she starts going to work. She stabs them both clickers in the back of the neck, and then meanwhile one was trying to attack her, and this is where Joel snipes one over the corner. I think it kills two actually, one over the corner of her shoulder and one that was chasing from behind her. It's really really cool. But once again, Ellie kind of has her little hero moments, right? Because we're talking about heroes during this, and Sam being a hero, and she kind of has her hero moment. Let's see here. She saves them, and they're about to escape. So they finally get away, and they're running away. They're getting to the end of this long like cul-de-sac thing, and sure enough, wouldn't you know it, Kathleen pops up here, and she has them all at gunpoint.
It's
Because
like,
she
just leave it.
I know. I was like, at this point, I'm like, literally, your entire rebel thing is being run down. You're about like, there's tons of zombies behind you. There's no reason to be hyper focused here. This is like, you gotta move on.
Yeah.
But of course she doesn't. So they have the gun on her. And the most poetic justice thing happens, right? The fact that she says, you kill kids, it's their turn to die. The kid clicker that was in the vehicle pops up on the fence behind her and jumps, tackles her, kills her. Like I said, it was poetic justice there. It was awesome. Just because of her like
scratching.
Sorry, what was that?
The way she was scratching at her and
Oh,
beating her
yeah.
up.
Oh, I know.
It reminded me of the that Alexander Salmon hockey fight. You know, that one where
Yeah, where he's just like hitting him with the
like a
back of his
bongo
head, yeah.
drum.
Yeah, like a bongo drum. Yeah, just I didn't even think of that. That's hilarious. Oh my goodness. So once again, like I said, her sort of little circle of kids gotta die. It's their time. I mean, it's her time. It's her time. Because I mean, they definitely could have stopped it. They all saw it was about to happen, and they didn't.
Oh,
So her time.
Yeah.
And then at this point, once they run away, they have this big sort of like panning shot, which I thought was really cool, over top of this whole like the damage done. So they pan over the whole thing, and even at this point, you still see just clickers and infected just pouring out of the hole. Still, like there was no shot these people were ever going to stand up to this.
And they just
It's
bolt.
really
Like,
cool.
do we know where they're going or where was there a sound that brought them? Because all of a sudden, like they all started running the same way rather than just.
It
No,
looked
they all
like
just
the bloater like pulled them, and they started going in one direction together.
they went towards the vehicles, like they
Oh,
were
okay.
parked further up the street. So I'm guessing they're just like tracking noise or something. I don't know, or maybe they know where they are. Maybe the bloater's more intelligent, like you said. Maybe the bloater's actually moving them
Because
around.
he like roared, I think, and then they all stopped and looked.
That'd be kind of cool. I gotta go watch that scene again, double check. But yeah, they definitely all went back towards the city, and maybe that's because they were told.
Retaking it
Yeah,
back.
who knows?
Rebellion of the rebellion, you know?
Rebellion. We're we're 2 rebellions deep already here now. So then we get out of that area, and we're back in a house. So we've escaped this area. We're in some sort of random house. Sam and Ellie have a comic book. They're talking about the comic book moment, and they're once again. What was that?
Motel?
Was it a motel?
I thought it was a motel.
Oh, sorry. Okay, it was a motel. My bad. Motel. And they're kind of in this comic book moment, and where they're looking at, and she's again reiterating. What's the two words she say? Survive, endure, or something like that. Endure,
yeah.
survive.
Survive.
Name the
Which I think
episode.
they did. Yeah, they did it. Yeah, they did it earlier as well. I think in the Ish school when they were there too. I think she said endure, survive, but they're kind of doing the same thing here.
Mhm.
And they talk about fears. They talk about their fears. So right away, Ellie starts alluding to the fact like, no, she's not really scared of them, but what she is scared of is being alone. At first she was kind of being like, and then kind of like, but she's like, no, I do have fear. Like I am fear of like my fear is being alone, like being in this world by myself. And obviously them not knowing that she's immune to this whole disease thing,
Right.
is probably the reason why. And then at that point, Sam asks his question. He asks like, do you think the people who are infected are still in there essentially? Like, do their consciousness still exists? And then that's kind of when he shows her that he has been bitten. So again, you're like, I'm sure if you haven't played the games, this is obviously another big moment. This does happen in the games.
Yeah.
And obviously you're just
a little differently, but yeah.
a little bit, but not overly, right? Like
this next scene
it
never
is.
happens. Like she doesn't do the
No,
blood thing you're about to talk about.
and she didn't know until the
Right.
morning
You're right.
in the game. Like
She goes
to
to
be
wake
fair,
him up.
she never knew that he had it.
Yeah.
She just goes to wake him up, but like in this one, yeah, he says like, okay, like it shows I've been bitten, and then she's like, oh, I have an antidote, which is obviously a very like kid way of going about this, being like, my blood's medicine, my blood's medicine. She literally starts cutting and rubbing it on his wound.
Not
And-
sanitary. Come on.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was dangerous.
Yeah,
That's
that
the
is
scariest thing I've
that
seen.
is-
This whole-
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say, I was like, oh my
do not repeat.
don't ever do that at home. That's so dangerous. Anyway, so this happens, and then she's just kind of consoling him, right? Being like, I'm gonna be up with you all night. Let's be strong. Like it's gonna work. Blah blah blah. Which is just like again, it's just like it's just it's so sad. It's so sad.
Yeah, Miss
So
Wrangler did
then-
not do well at this part.
No, and I mean, especially if you, I mean, and obviously I anticipated this happening. I didn't know if they were going to take liberties, if they were suddenly going to kill off Henry and keep Sam, or either one or both. I didn't know how they're going to play this, if they were going to take it right from the game, and they took it right from the game, how everything ends up. So, we are now it's now morning. It all happens super quick. Suddenly it's morning. Boom. She looks over at him and she's like, Sam. And he turns around and he goes psycho and attacks her, right? Because he's obviously turned. As we all knew that would happen. They go blasting through the door. Ellie's panicking, like, help, help, help. Joel obviously realizes what happens, grabs his guns, gonna start going. And Henry does the same thing in the game as well. Says like, no, like back up, shoots a bullet at Joel's feet to be like, no. And it takes him a few seconds and he shoots Sam.
Yeah, there's like
Right?
no hesitancy.
There's no hesitation. And it's that way in the game too.
Yep.
It is that way in the game too, where he doesn't really mess around for a lot. He knows what's happened. It's over. And so he kills Sam, obviously, and then he has a complete breakdown moment, as anyone would have. He just killed his brother, and like 24 hours ago, they were alive and leaving the city and thought everything was good. And so it's been a bit of a crazy 24 hours. So he starts panicking. He's never actually killed anyone before, like with his own hands. So he's like, what did I do? What did I do? Joel's trying to talk him off the ledge. He's like, give me the gun.
Mhm.
And obviously he doesn't. He puts the gun to his head, and that's it for him. So just like that, Henry and Sam both are their storylines have ended here, which is exactly what happened in the game. So, I mean, take that from whatever you would. It's a crazy whirlwind. They're part of the game.
Mhm.
We then go I don't know if it's the next. It's still the same day. They're outside. This is kind of a nice thing too. I think that you know how you have Joel and Ellie. And it's the first time you actually see him burying someone. They very rarely do they get to bury anybody in this world. I think on the account that they either turn to clickers or, you know, they have to leave them behind. You don't get that sort of opportunity. So we finally get to see a proper burial. And Ellie leaves the sign on top of Sam saying that she's sorry.
Mhm.
And then she right away just goes into which way's west, and she's gone.
Yeah.
And that's where it ends. So I mean, very interesting episode. Loved large sections of it. What was our read on this episode? Where do you guys want to What do you guys want to talk about here? Click that.
I can go over the last scene a little bit because I want to chat about it a bit, but
Do it.
in the motel, let me click around to it here. I loved I loved how shot for shot it was, especially when you have the Ellie and Sam struggle in the floor. Like it's
Mhm.
all just shot for shot, and it's really cool. The guy who did Henry, the way he shot at Joel's feet, and then he's kind of like he's almost startled by the shot. Like you can see his own feet kind of like starting to like fling around a little bit, like he's really not sure about it. And I just thought the
Mhm.
whole scene was so intense and it was done so well.
Yeah.
There's one weird part, and I don't know why it was chosen, but I think I liked
Mhm.
it. It's when Henry comes into the bed and says, "Hey Sam, it's time for bed." And Sam like goes and curls up on the bed like a cat. Like
Yeah,
he
he doesn't lay like a normal human. He's
yeah,
like,
he doesn't lay across it. He lays like horizontally across the
Oh.
bed. And I was like, I wonder if they're taking that as like they've never really slept in like a bed, and so he just
Mhm. He just
lays
lied
in it that
down.
just
way,
laid it whatever way.
or if he just knows he's not going to sleep and needs to talk to Ellie, and so he just lays down just to get his brother out of there. But it was I thought that was interesting how that was done. So
I didn't even notice that we went the wrong way.
I was just like,
Um,
what is he doing?
yeah. I was just because at that point I was already just in my head. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like
yeah,
I'm just like I can't, it's killing me inside because at that point too I'm watching this in the afternoon, so I'm like, are other kids just like sleeping in my arms? And I'm just like, oh, this is too much. This is too much. Yeah, no, it was. I didn't see that. It definitely could be true. Like the fact that they've never slept in a proper
Yeah.
bed. He's maybe never even slept in. Maybe he has slept in a bed, but it might not have been a big person bed because he's just a kid
right.
and he has no idea. Like I have no idea, and that's very cool. I have to go watch that too and see what happened there. Like the whole episode itself moved pretty quick. And this is exactly where we thought they would end it, right? This is kind of like where we anticipated this going.
Yeah.
When we talked last week, is that like we were just wondering how far would they go. We seem like this is a natural endpoint, just like it is in the game.
Mhm.
They changed seasons here.
Yep.
This is a natural endpoint for this one, and it is interesting that they didn't try and go further, but I mean at the same time it felt good. It just makes you wonder. We got 4 episodes left again, and we're still a lot to cover, so it makes it very interesting that way. Kathleen as well. Like I know we have lots about Kathleen. Is there anything else we want to kind of talk about this character? Because this is kind of another one of those, along with Henry and Sam. This is kind of the other character that's driving us forward here. Poka, any thoughts on her? I know we've kind of ostrich. We kind of agree on this, but
I think I've said my piece on her.
I'm
Yeah.
happy to not have to hear from that character again. To be honest, I'm happy
Yeah.
I'm happy how the story ended, and I'm happy
Yeah.
that I don't have to listen to her
Deal with it.
anymore.
Like Poka, are you a Harry Potter guy? Like, have you seen the movies and stuff?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So like she reminds me of Umbridge. Like she's got like this sweet, sincere sort of tone, but she's just really like a terrible person. And I feel like that just doesn't work in this environment. But that's who she reminded me of a lot.
Mm-hmm.
See, for me, it's not even her sound always that does it. Like I know she's kind of like has that sort of sweet, sort of like you would expect her to be a very nice neighbor and like involved in the community and like sort of that sort of voice. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but it's not even the voice that throws me. It's just her actions just don't like if I'm like I said, if I'm in this thing and I'm spending all day and night looking for one dude, and I get they all loved him, but it just seems a bit like I don't know.
It's
Just
too
seems a
irrational
bit
to seem so rational, right?
like for a bunch of people who've survived 20 years, I feel like the ones who are left have to be pretty vetted at this point.
Mhm.
Even though I know they were in a quarantine zone, like they literally just finished having a bloody overthrow, and like you know what I mean, like it's kind of like I feel like they wouldn't be like, oh yeah, okay, let's comb the city now. I don't know. Personally, it just
Yeah.
feels weird. It just doesn't feel right. And like I said, it honestly isn't that big of a part of the episode as much as we're talking about it. It really isn't that big of a
Yeah.
like she doesn't have that much screen time. It's just when she does, it's sometimes you're like, oh, okay, let's just get a move on with it. And like honestly, the most interested I was finally the last scene when she kind of showed her hands that she was just a terrible human being. Because I
Yeah.
felt like she was always trying to be like a rational person, like, oh, they killed some of our men, we're gonna have to go after them and doing all this. And then she, like the kid at the point where she had a finally decision to make a good one, being like, let the kids go. She's like, no,
Yeah.
no, we're gonna kill everyone because I'm angry with vengeance, and this is how it's gonna go.
Yeah.
I'm glad she's done.
Yeah.
I think looking back at that show, I think that will be its biggest hit. I think will be her.
Yeah.
It's just too bad that it's a made up character that wasn't in the game.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they just kind of struggled with interweaving something in there, but yeah,
Yeah,
whatever.
maybe.
Um,
It could be, and it could be.
but
Um,
Sam, on the other hand, big
yeah.
changes with him.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
Kid
he's not
is
he's deaf in this one.
He is, and he is not deaf in the game, and he is way older in the game.
He's a little bit older. I wouldn't say way older, maybe a couple of years. Because he's kind of he's kind of Ellie's age. They're very
Right.
similar.
Right. But I mean, this kid is like he's very much a young kid.
He might be like 8 or 9 or something in this, as
Yeah.
opposed to like 13. So yeah, I mean,
Big
for
difference.
sure a few years. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's some difference there too. Like I said, and the him being deaf and just how that kind of, I think they did a good job of kind of like reminding you that the world is different for
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
The world is different for him because of this. And when he steps on things, he tells them like, shh, that's loud. Like, and you
Yeah.
wouldn't think about that. Or,
Yeah.
you know, or like the way they're reading and interacting with books and teaching each other. Suddenly Ellie's learning ASL and he's learning different things. And, yeah, it's all very interesting.
And I think it obviously adds a lot more depth to it too, because it makes him like, it just when you can't bond over like language and stuff like that, like they just find different ways to bond. And I think it made it
Yeah.
much more playful for them too, because like she's just doing more actions, she's playing with him, like just physically soccer and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I think it makes the relationship a little bit deeper even. But it also makes it that much more heartbreaking when a 10-year-old kid is getting shot.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's just, it just gets you. Once again,
Yeah.
it's just the classic that the Last of Us
It is.
MO. Like I said, you're never gonna have something where you're like, oh, good, everything went to plan here. You're not gonna have that, that Uncharted moment where it always works out. Something
know.
falls and he always catches another ledge, right? Or the, the Indiana Jones moment where there's always some sort of secret way to get out of a tunnel or something. There's just no, there is no tunnel in these games. You are stuck here, like.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm glad. What makes me happy is I'm glad HBO isn't shying away from a lot of these things. Not that I thought they would be, but sometimes you never know
if
once
it was
Hollywood gets their hands on.
if it was another place, they wouldn't have maybe done it at all. So I feel like for how dark of a game it is, like I'm glad HBO picked it up and it wasn't like Disney.
Yeah. Well, but that's the thing, right? Like there depends where you are. People don't always depict kids getting shot.
Yeah,
and I know they didn't show it, which is fine.
Right.
But even just that aspect of like, they got shot, they acted it out, they did all
Yeah.
this stuff. But I feel like a lot of places don't even go that far. Like
Yeah.
they'll just they'll go to a different part of the house and you'll hear just like a boom, a trigger
Yeah.
noise, and they'll be like, oh, okay.
I think they did a good job
But-
with this one. Like in the game,
Yep.
Sam like suffers a little bit after he was shot in the game.
Yeah.
Like there's a couple like gurgles and noises.
Yeah.
So I'm glad they didn't have that because you don't need it. Like
No, yeah, you don't
spoilers,
need that.
It would just make it so much more heavy, and it really doesn't need to be any heavier than it is. So
No,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. What'd you think about these? So we'll get to the big fight. I know we kind of alluded to that. We enjoy this part more than the games.
yes,
In the street,
yes,
where
yes,
it's at night now. It definitely had a higher intensity. This is kind of like, we really haven't had much action in this game. They've kind of blown over most of the action, which is fine because that's not what this world's about. But this was our action scene.
yeah.
It took a long time to get here, but I am so happy now that we're here. Like that was so good.
Yeah, absolutely. And no, and I love the fact that it was different, but it was different in the right way. I think like it was believable. So at first I was like, well, how did why? My thoughts that I still have is like, how did the clickers get underground to that area? Because I don't think the pipes went that far. So I don't know, like that was my one thing. I didn't understand that part of it. Because they weren't in the city, they were on the outskirts already. So the maintenance
Right.
tunnels weren't there anymore because they came out. If the maintenance tunnels were still there, they probably still would be in them. Still traveling out, right? Like so from that was my only like, okay, like did they just like are they like really good tunnelers and they just been tunneling? Like because that
Yeah.
seems like a pretty far ways to go, but there's also a million of them. I don't know. Um, but
Yeah.
it's a small whatever.
And looking at the game version of this, uh, it wasn't like you was still a little stressed out because you're sitting there as Joel and you're having to like hit a lot of shots to protect the people. But
Mhm.
it wasn't like it was much more open. Like there were cars, there was houses, but it wasn't cramped like this was. Like, and this just obviously
Yeah.
wouldn't work in a game because you just wouldn't win. It was
Yeah,
You
yeah.
would
it's
Yeah.
never
just
win that.
complete chaos. But
Just
I think the
complete
way the
anarchy
movie
out
did
there.
it was just it was so well done. It was so well shot.
Oh,
It was a
it really was.
stressful, whatever it was, 7 to 10 minutes of TV. I thought they did
It was.
a really good job of it.
Yeah, it came and went. Like they didn't. It wasn't long. Like I don't even. Yeah, like you said, it was probably 10 minutes. I don't know. I mean, there was even just dialogue in there randomly too, and like
Yeah,
it wasn't like a huge, major, long half an hour blockbuster thing. But it was wild. Like it was just what it came and went.
yep,
You know what I mean? And it was, and I think yeah, that's what made it good. I think it was also believable from that standpoint too. Like these things just come flooding out and there's nothing they could do. I mean, they were eventually too. Like Perry calls his vehicles. He's like, "Run them down, run
yep.
them down." Like
Mhm.
like really they should have got out of there. Is what they should have done. But I mean, it is what it is. Other than that, I mean, there's not really a whole lot else other than like everything else kind of follows it beat for beat. Um, so maybe we should let's go into the reviews. What do we rate these things? I know I didn't kind of run this by you, so I mean I'll kind of start too because I kind of thought about it.
Mhm.
Obviously, I think this is one of the stronger ones again. We're back
Yeah.
into the really really strong field for myself personally. I think they kicked it back up from where we were last week from just a really good episode to again a really great episode. I think they made a little changes that were appropriate. I think they didn't really do anything crazy that made me go like roll my eyes, other than Kathleen still being there. But we wrapped that storyline up, so I'm happy about that.
Yep.
And yeah, no, and I really enjoyed it. I liked where it all went. So for myself, I'm putting this one at a 9.
It's a good score. It's a good
Ostrich, what do
score.
you got?
What did I give the last one?
7.5, 7 or 7.5. I have them written down here. I can actually here. Let me bring it up.
If you don't
Keep
mind.
telling us your piece, and I'll let you know.
Um.
You have it as 7.5.
Okay. This one was really awesome for me. I thought I'm glad it wrapped up the stories with the Kathleen. Um, yeah, all the changes that were made, I felt were all appropriate changes. I
Mhm.
like that you have a little bit different dialogue with the Sam and Henry, especially like the reason that he gave up Kathleen's brother. I liked that full circle thing. Um,
Yeah.
the action was something that I was missing in episode 4, so we got it here, and I'm very excited to
Mhm.
have it here.
Yes.
Honestly, I'm going up to 9.5 with this one. I think this was.
Ooh,
I
I
think
like it.
this might have been. Ooh, golly, golly, better than the last one for sure.
Oh yeah, better than the last one. I
Um,
probably. I mean, and
probably
we're
better
gonna do
than number.
this.
Oh yeah, okay.
And we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do this next week too, where we're actually gonna put them in order. We're gonna start putting them in order so we can tell where our favorites are,
Yeah. Okay.
in what order.
But yeah,
I
9.5.
think will be
I think is.
9.5.
I
All
think
right,
so. It was really good.
all right, Poka.
Dang. I'd probably go.
Speak your truth. Don't worry about what we said.
What did I say for the last one as well? Let me know.
I think you
let me-
said 7. I think you went lower. I think I think you went 7.
All right. Well, yeah, 8.5, but
Okay,
still,
I like it.
yeah.
We're all kind of in the same area. Little changes here and there, but we're all kind of in the same area. I mean, and I think we all you can feel it, right? You can it's kind of a gut thing. I don't know. I feel like with this one where you can just like, how'd the episode make you feel? It's different than other shows, right? Where it's like every time you're getting wrenched in some way. So it's a matter of too, like I said, what happened? What made you feel a certain way? What made you didn't? And it's just really really it's really one of those things where last episode, I mean, we felt like it was kind of slow. We didn't really do anything. Kathleen wasn't interesting, and now we kind of had a little bit more of a, a scene where we got Henry and Sam, which kind of helped drive the story forward because Kathleen just
Totally.
wasn't doing it.
Yeah,
Like that was
exactly.
her time last time, and it wasn't it. So, okay. So then going forward, I know I've seen scenes from next time, and I know Ostrich has as well. Poka, did you watch scenes from next one?
No, I didn't.
No, you didn't. Okay. Any sort of comments you want to make about the next one or predictions before we kind of get into it? I know Ostrich and I kind of mentioned a few things to him a little bit before about it, but is there anything you want to say, Ostrich, or you think that might want to mention?
Let me take a quick look here again.
Okay. Well, I'll start again. So it looks like so for anyone who doesn't want maybe spoilers or anything forward, maybe end here unless you really are curious about talking about this. It looks quite different. I'm not entirely sure we're gonna get the Joel being impaled scene. I don't know if that exists.
I forgot about that.
That's a major point in the game, and I don't know if we're gonna get it because the whole thing they show there is normally just Ellie by herself, riding on the
Yeah.
horses, going into the town, taking down all the bad guys. What's his name? There's a bad guy in there. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, that creeper.
And he's basically a perv that
Yeah.
she ends up killing, and that's a kind of a big moment. So she's gonna have to have her big moment somewhere, I think. But I don't think it's gonna be coming in the most normal way possible. Also, we're meeting Tommy inside of a town. It looks like almost like a Wild West town kind of. It's got like a main drive sort of, and they're all old buildings. It looks like we're meeting Tommy there
Mhm.
as opposed to at a dam. I don't even know if we're gonna see a dam. I don't know if we're gonna see the damn dam. Not that it matters.
It really
But-
doesn't. Yeah.
Like I think what their plan is, and this could be, maybe I'm right here, could be, is that they're gonna, and I know we said there was one scene where we thought we saw it in the background, like kind of the university where Joel inevitably gets impaled by the rebar.
Yes.
But I bet you I wouldn't be surprised if they just ride right by it.
The university.
Like if we yeah. Like, because the university happens before the snow, and we got shown a lot of snow stuff. So I bet you it could just be a matter of they're heading west and they make a reference to it, and maybe they just go right on by, just kind of like, hey, look, a university. And it's funny because everyone who's played the game will go, ha ha ha, and then they ride right by.
I do the university in spring.
The second, they actually go twice.
Okay.
So there's one where they're supposed to meet the Fireflies because
Yeah.
they meet Tommy,
Yes.
and Tommy says this is where they are, and they're supposed to meet the Fireflies there. They go there. There's no Fireflies. They've moved on
Right.
to, I don't know, it was like Utah or something. I don't
Somewhere
know what it
else.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so on their way out of there, that's when there's all these other dudes, the rebels, who are, I think, following them still from way back.
Got it. And I think that's a
are
very
there.
in that scene, it's a lot of you just exploring and finding out nothing's there.
Yeah.
So I feel like they could dodge out that whole scene pretty easily, even if, because I think they have to reiterate at some point the reason that Ellie's still there, because Joel they need to say something along the lines of, "I'm taking Ellie here because this is where she needs to be delivered to."
Yeah.
So I don't know, and that's where that's when they go to the university, right?
Yeah.
Because he's
Well, so
expecting to
originally in the
drop
game,
off there.
originally in the game they go to the dam. There is no dam. Obviously in this one it's the town. But what threw me is the fact that it's already winter. I'm pretty sure in that scene, which means we've pushed forward a long ways already.
Yeah.
Like we're already in winter, and normally it's in fall where you meet. So when you look
Yeah,
at
it is,
the
yeah.
university, what we thought was the university, and there's a scene also with like Ellie riding and looking
Mhm.
backwards with a gun.
It sure looks like a
There's-
university.
It looks like a university, and there's no snow on the ground.
Right.
So we haven't met Tommy yet, but I thought the whole point, even earlier in the episodes, is they said we want to meet Tommy because he used to know where the Fireflies are.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we're cruising all the way through winter and going straight to spring in this next episode, or what the deal's going on
A lot
here.
of
But
jumping. But I'm
it's a lot.
fine if they meet Tommy fairly quickly, and then he just gives them their final destination in mind. Like he's like, "Hey, this is where they are," and they go there, and then kind of end game kind of thing is where that is. I'm fine with that journey, because obviously winter starts, like you said, with Joel being hurt and Ellie has to do all the hunting and stuff, right?
Yeah, and that's
So-
kind of where the DLC picks up as well for the game, which we were told we're getting some I thought, well, everyone keeps saying we were told we're getting an episode of that.
Right.
So for my thought, I thought, well, then it has to happen. But I'm also starting to wonder if that ever happens, because if I don't know how you do that now, and
I didn't even play the DLC. I don't think.
it shows basically just shows like Ellie's origin story,
Right. Yeah. And her
like when
yeah.
with her and her friend, and it also shows it time jumps between that and her getting the medication for Joel, like the
Oh, okay,
antibiotics
got it.
to keep him alive. So it's just a short little period in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. I don't know.
They don't need it. Like,
I don't know.
yeah,
I feel like they do need it. I feel like it's a real grow up moment for Ellie.
I think she's gonna have to find another way to grow up.
Maybe,
They don't have
maybe
time. 1, 2, 3,
they don't have
4
time.
episodes.
Yeah.
I think they are running out of time. But I mean,
There's gonna be some moment where she comes into her own, and I think she's already obviously doing that already.
Yeah.
But
And maybe who knows? Maybe it does still happen and it just becomes something else. But it's interesting. It's worth noting. That
Yes.
even with that way that was, I was like, okay, so we're meeting Tommy in winter, which is already a time jump from where we're at.
Yep.
And then I thought the scene where they were going by that giant building that might be university building or something, it just didn't look like snow. So I
Right.
just thought, like, well, they probably are there first, which makes no sense because they haven't met Tommy yet, so they don't know where the Fireflies are supposed to be.
Mhm.
I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what they do there. That's what leads me to think maybe we're not getting any of that, because they're also getting. You gotta remember, we're inside this town in the next scenes.
Won't it be weird?
We're inside
though,
this.
'cause- Sorry, they go to like the end game.
Yeah,
It's at another university, right? Or hospital or something.
yeah.
And I just feel like if they jump from Tommy's
Two of them,
place to the university to the hospital, I feel like it'll just be too much of the same thing.
same thing. Yeah,
So
and also worth noting too is, like, I'm in my head, I'm sitting here thinking, like, they don't have a horse now. I imagine they're getting a horse from Tommy like they do in the game.
yeah,
I'm imagining that's how they get it.
Yeah.
So even in that thing where we said, once again, we're looking at that building in the background, they're on a horse,
Mhm.
are they not?
Yep.
So they have met Tommy already in this
Yep.
case then.
Yep.
So then it does happen after, and it might not be for next episode. Maybe that part's actually a clip from a couple episodes down the line or
Yeah,
something.
who knows?
But
They kind of splice them together weirdly sometimes.
they do splice them, so it's more interesting stuff. But okay. I think with that, is there any final notes? Anything you want to say that we missed before we wrap it up here?
Nope.
No,
Nice.
we're all good.
This episode is
All
fire.
right. That's fire. I know. I can't wait for next. Oh, I can't wait. The next one's back on Sunday as usual. Thanks everybody
Yeah.
for tuning in. And if you did watch the entire thing, thank you very much. And if you'd like to leave a comment down below, leave a like. Check out these boys on their Twitch handles right there on screen, Poka_TTV and Ostrichwrangler1. I saw Ostrichwrangler was streaming today too, so that's great. Poka's always streaming. I stream sometimes too as well. So check them all out. And I guess we'll see you guys all back here for episode 6. So without further ado, adios.
Bye.